Good evening, Cheeseheads. Welcome to a therapy session on this Monday night. I'll be doing my best to guide the conversation, but if it's anything like Spurs' performance on Saturday, be all over the place. Little bit of housekeeping. Please hit the like button if you're enjoying what we're talking about. If you don't enjoy what we're talking about, that'd be great. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Anyway, 3 great guests tonight. All good for some serious debating. But first of all, fans' favourite, top right-hand corner, Stalwart Mondays, Becky. How are you, Becky? All right?
Yes, I'm okay. I'm still sad, but I need my Monday therapy session. So I've got some great people to chat with about it. But yeah, bring it on. Let's get it over with.
Yeah, bring it on. And so on Saturday, my next 2 guests took a brief break from their usual podding duties. Polarised the Cheese Room fan base on the socials. So we've tracked them down to give their opinion on the weekend's events. So I'll try and introduce them as good as like their usual host, Franco. So bottom right, from up north, Seb Short. How are you, Seb? All right, mate?
I'm good, yeah. I think, it floored me on Saturday, the result, to be honest. I wasn't expecting it. I thought we turned the corner. I was expecting, especially with the going 1-0 up. It's going to be interesting kind of analysing it, really, because it really took me by surprise.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing these opinions. And then, obviously, last but not least, from South London, Mr. Paul Muir. Paul, how are you, mate? All good?
Yeah, very, very good. Nice to be back on, actually. Yeah, it was good. I went on Saturday for my sins. And, I hope I don't have to go back there anytime quite soon. It was a difficult game to watch, which we'll get into now. But, yeah, it's good to be back on. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Yeah, extremely difficult. And I think the best place to start is the starting 11. Becky, when you saw this come up at 2:00, what were your thoughts?
The defence has gone back like 5 years and we haven't moved on. I was pleased Porro started. I was surprised. I've got to be honest. I know some people wanted him to start. I thought he would come on as a sub. I think the biggest tactical error there was putting Tanganga next to him. For all of Sanchez's faults, Sanchez at least speaks the same language as Porro, so they could have had some conversation. I think putting Tanganga and Porro there was just carnage, and that's kind of how it turned out to be, really. Other than that, it was pretty much, really, Davis or Longley, it's an either or, isn't it? They announced that Sessegnon was injured again, didn't they? So Perisic was going to play, and then he's, and I'm a Sonny lover. He's still very kind of, set on Kane, Kulusevski and Son when they're fit. So, yeah, I didn't really expect much else, really. I just thought it was quite a lot for Porro and Tanganga, really.
Yeah. Seb, what did you think to that lineup, mate?
Very similar. As Becky said, I was very surprised that Pedro Porro started because
it's his new name.
That's it now, Seb. That's going to stick forever.
Let's call him Cheese Room Podro. Emerson had a good game as we all saw against Man City. The main problem that I have, kind of without looking individually but as a team, we've heard Conte say so many times about he wants multiple options, two players for every position. That's great, but you got to play him. Richarlison, I don't know. He's going to end up at some point. He's going to throw his toys out the pram, I would imagine. We've seen it with Bissouma, who's now injured. Doesn't get the way that we play. We've seen it with Spence, who's then gone to France and seems to have done okay. And I don't know what you have to do to get into Conte's good books, if you like. But I would say that at the moment there are probably 8, maybe 9, who it appears that if they're fit, they will start. And I don't see how that's good for squad morale. How does Emerson feel after putting in a man and match performance to then be on the bench. I don't see how that is the right thing to do.
No, I find that very strange. Coming on to you, Paul, obviously you can give your opinion on it, but Emerson was really good last week. And like you have to, the things other players have had to do to get in the team, and then like Porro straight in. A lot of people wanted to see him in, but it was just very strange. I found that strange. It just didn't see. It just seems weird compared to how like Conte usually picks his starting 11. What did you think?
First and foremost, I didn't think I'd ever see Japhet Tanganga again as a starting for Tottenham. He's not a Premiership level player. That it's quite clear. So I was very surprised to see that, and I can only echo what Seb and Becky have said. Porro, I like Leicester. I like Harvey Barnes. I think Harvey Barnes is really underrated. I think he's really good, and it worried me that he would attack the space between Porro and Japhet, and that's what it turned out to be. But Japhet shouldn't start for us ever again. We all know what we get with Sanchez. He's better than Tanganga. I don't know why Tanganga started at the weekend, and that was my main worry. As the guys have said, the rest of the team kind of picks itself at the minute, especially after the horrific week that we've had injury-wise, and only got compounded on Saturday. But that was the worst performance under Conte since he's been here. I think it was worse than Palace, which is ironically Royale's debut, when Tanganga got sent off when he pushed Wilf to the ground. It was horrible. We'll get onto the ins and outs of it now, but seeing the starting lineup, the initial thing was like, Porro kind of debut away from home as well, and then the gap that him and Tanganga. It was just, that was the thing that stood out for me to start with.
Yeah. So, I mean, apart from those two, really, I think that's what we were expecting with Sessegnon out, wasn't it? But Becky, we didn't start off too bad, did we? I think like first 15, we looked good, didn't we?
I can't really remember. I must be honest. I wasn't drinking alcohol. I've just kind of blanked it out a bit, really.
Well, I think within 90 seconds, we'd had a sort of like a half decent chance, hadn't we? I think it was.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, we were on the front foot.
I remember the goal.
Well, we had opportunities before that. We had Son got an early shot off, and then the big one was Perisic, which I think, if memory served, the goalkeeper. Oh no, sorry, there was a Perisic one that he put wide.
He skewed wide.
I remember that one.
Then there was a free kick, which the goalkeeper did well to get to, and we scored from the resulting corner.
Well, we had a corner first, didn't we? And their defender Christensen, was it, made quite a decent sort of like clearance, didn't he? It was going towards goal. Then we retook the corner, and Bentancur scored. So, how did you think were you quite pleased with the start, Seb? Did you think we looked on the front foot, and all the things we want Spurs to be?
Looked all right. I've been saying it for a while. I'm concerned about Perisic. I don't think he's worth his $200,000 a week. When he was put through there, this is a super experienced guy, World Cup finalist, World Cup semi-finalist, etc. We hear all these things, and his set piece deliveries are pretty good. But from open play, I really can't remember really much of what he's offered this season. And that chance, I thought that was a big chance. Should have done a lot, but at least get it on target. It's Danny Ward, for God's sake. He doesn't get down quick. Put that in the bottom corner and at least get it on target. Also, going back to the Sessegnon thing, it's a worry. I think it's a worry. He's 33, 34. We need him to play. I would imagine the majority of games. I mean, we'll come on to future plans, I think, and formations and lineups in a bit. But that's a bit of a worry. But then his set piece delivery is decent, as we know. Look, it was just very disappointing to go 1-0 up, which we had weeks of it, didn't we? Post the World Cup, of we're the team that goes behind and then tries to come back, even before the World Cup. and then to then turn that on its head in the most disappointing way of actually going into the lead and not being able to hold it. And just to add, please, can you come back to me when you discuss the Leicester equaliser, because I want to follow up on even Perisic.
Seb, we'll go around everyone on every question, and like on your point about Perisic, I'll let you answer this. But Perisic to me looks like a third. The way he plays, the way he sort of like lays the ball off, and the things he does look like a veteran footballer to me. Paul, do you agree? I think he does. His delivery is great, but a lot of the things he does, he looks like a veteran to me. If you get what I mean,
I do get what you mean. He's very economical.
Yeah.
He doesn't waste any energy. My issue with him is that he can't defend. He is not very good at one-on-one defending. He's very, very good going forward. He does like a very nice kind of step over, and he can go either way, left or right. I agree with it. I thought he took an age to latch onto that first chance. We watched it. It was up the other end. That our goal, where we were attacking, was away from me, so it's the other end. And the sight lines aren't very good at that. It's not very nice. Anyway, moving on. But it did seem in that Perisic's first chance that he took an age. He seemed to like let the ball come to him rather than latch onto the ball and then like try and cut off the angle to get to the goalkeeper quicker. And as Seb said, it's Danny Ward. We know Danny Ward's not great for Wales or for Leicester, and he seemed to take a while. But his delivery is superb. It is from corners and from free, and obviously, Ward tipped over the free kick, which wasn't going in; it was going over the bar, but Ward wasn't sure. But I think Perisic, he's going to play. He's going to get run into the ground now. I mean, I'm waiting for the thigh strain in 2 or 3 games from Perisic, and then it'll be probably Emerson left wing back. It'll switch Emerson over because I don't think he wants to put Davies as left wing back. But we'll come on to that in a minute with future formations.
Which is why I said like 2 weeks ago when we were talking about before the transfer window closed, I said Doherty won't go because Doherty can play on the left hand side. So when that inevitably does happen, and you're right, that seems such a daft thing to have done.
I mean, at the time, I wasn't too bothered about Doherty going, if I'm honest, but. Like obviously with the injuries now, and he has played left wing back for us, hasn't he? But Becky, the first goal went in. Obviously, great delivery from Perisic into the box. What were your thoughts when that went in? Did you think, here we go, we'll hold on here, or we'll stink out 1-0, or do you think we'll push on?
Initially, the stream froze as
lucky you.
It was just as it was always being headed back in, and then it kind of came off the defender, and then Bentancur kind of hit it in, didn't he? But I really thought we would like kick on from there. I was like, right, here we go. It was an early goal. We scored first. This is going to be fantastic from here. And I had people who were Leicester supporters saying it's very similar. And that was it. It just didn't materialise. And as we know, that it just kind of steamrolled into just an absolute nightmare. And I think even sitting today, we're all like, you can get past the result. We've had, weirdly, this time last year, we lost 2-0 to Wolves. And me and Jack were at that game. And it was nothing really happened in that game either. We went 2-0 down really quickly, game over. It's more of all the injuries and everything that happened to Bentancur, obviously. But yeah, I was the same. I thought we turned a corner. We hadn't conceded for 3 games. It was really going to be right. We scored. Leicester are going to go really quiet and we're just going to kick on. And that just never turned out to be the case, and the defending was just woeful.
Yeah, it weren't great, was it? So, Seb, I'll come to you. Obviously, we've gone 1-0 up. Talk about the goal if you want, but obviously it was a little bit of a scrappy affair. But we go 1-0 up, and you think to yourself, what are we going to do now? Let's push on. It was a great strike from Mendy, wasn't it? It was a great strike, but do you want to talk us through your opinions on the equaliser?
It was a good strike. I'll say that much. But if you're afforded all the time in the world, then you can get your body, shape your body or do whatever you want. It was a cheap corner to give away. Corner comes in and we failed to deal with it. But the worst thing for me is Perisic. And I hate the phrase kind of schoolboys stuff, schoolboy football, whatever. But, under 8s, under 7s, you're taught, meet the ball. Don't what you do, don't shy away from the ball. Now, I know he's not shying away, but he's set himself, put his hands behind his back, and he literally might have held out a placard saying, go on then, hit it. Because it was
weak.
I mean, it was terrible. And that is an individual mistake. And I know we'll come on to Dier and we'll come on to Ever, but I haven't seen a lot criticising Perisic. But for me, that was the worst mistake of the game. It was absolutely unforgivable.
After Bentancur headed it off the line, didn't he, as well? Because I remember that. He headed it off the line first.
Yeah. But there was no need for Perisic to do that. If he meets the ball, or if he even gets 3 yards further, doesn't even have to make the challenge. If he closes the shot down, it's very, very difficult for Mendy to score. And obviously, it's another Tottenham-like stat where he never scored a Premier League goal, 109 games, I think it was. And obviously, he's come up against Tottenham and we let him score. And we did let him score. Yes, it was a good strike, but he should have been nowhere near being able to put that in the net.
Yeah, fair enough. Weak defending, Paul. Is that your view on it as well?
Yeah, especially after what happened last week, getting blocks in, Dier putting his body in the line, running out to people like Mahrez, and we're blocking shots like that yesterday.
Yeah.
Last weekend, and then obviously Mendy hits it. What I will say, and I want to come on to Forster in a little bit.
Yeah.
I got there quite early, so I sat in the stand because there wasn't much room actually in the bar area, and I watched the guys warm up, and they were warming up at my end. Forster looks every age of. He's a massive man. He's what I call a unit.
6'7", isn't he?
He's huge. He's massive. He's really big. But I was noticing on the low shots, he just doesn't get down very well. Even in the warm up, he doesn't get down. And I was like, he's not moving great. He's not moving his feet. He's not. I mean, you guys will go to coaching and stuff, and I coach people better. I'm not an elite kind of like level coach in any shape or form at football, but I just thought this guy's not moving that great. And they were doing like some really low shots to him, and they were going in the warm up. And I was watching this thinking, this guy's not too sure about this. He's not very confident. Is he got an injury himself? Is he kept it quiet, kind of thing. I think on Leicester's equaliser, it is a good strike, but somebody at 6'7" shouldn't be having to have Rodrigo Bentancur clear off his line. It shouldn't have. He comes out to maybe come for the corner. It's a looping header, but he's still got enough time. He moves his feet quickly enough to come back and catch it and gather it. Then that situation, Bentancur doesn't have to hand. He's there, but Forster at 6'7" should be able to catch that. And then obviously, I fully agree with what Seb was saying, that Perisic kind of stops 3 or 4 yards from the ball, which is really weird, especially after last week. People throwing themselves in the way of the ball. It's like, oh, don't hurt me, kind of. It was weak and poor, but I do think Forster could have stopped the whole situation from happening by taking that looping header from the Leicester centre back from the edge of the 6-yard box. But it's what's maybes. It was a hell of a strike because that was right in front of me, and and then we just capitulated, which we'll come on to in a minute. Go on.
I was going to go on to Forster. I thought the third goal he was dodgy on. I thought he went down in instalments for the third goal, but obviously we'll come on to that in a minute. But obviously, Beck, so it goes to 1-1, and literally within 2 minutes, they've gone in front, and I think this is a graphic John has put on for where the ball comes. Is this the second goal, guys, or is this?
Yeah.
So,
guys there for the third one.
I mean, Becky, just from your opinion on that goal, did you just think what an absolute cluster when it went in?
Yeah, and after last week, it's Stellini saying that Dier was pushing forward to kind of make more of a press, and as Paul just said, then we were all so pleased last week when, like you said, the headers were coming in, the blocks were coming in. Royal was all over Grealish and kind of keeping up with him and all that sort of stuff. And all that went on Saturday. It was just acres of space every single time Leicester got the ball. And apart from that one save that I can remember Forster making with his hands, it looked like they were going to score every single time they went forward. And like that position there, so where Dier is, he's pushed up, but completely not realised that there's a player behind him. And then Tanganga's obviously having to kind of deal with 2 players. And, Porro kept kind of chasing after shadows, didn't he? There was just times when he was just kind of completely out of position, and yeah, you just, as soon as he got it, you just knew he was going to score. And like Maddison, when he scored in the home game, he just seems to like scoring against Spurs. I think it's very bizarre that we had that quote that Stellini said he was somebody that we really admired, and I was like, what are you doing bigging up the guy on the Friday before the match? I thought that was all a bit weird.
Yeah, I mean, he does look a goal against us, Maddison. Seb, I'll come on to you on this because you'll be able to tell us a little bit more than I could tactically about what's going on here. But the Stellini thing is, that's another point I want to have later on when we discuss the manager, like Stellini and Dier thinking that last week and changing something in game. That's something we're not quite used to, in my opinion. But Seb, what's going on here, mate?
So there's a few things going on. I watched this goal back. First of all, Dier got a lot of abuse for this, and yet he's positionally wrong. But they're all positionally wrong. First of all, the ball from Davis shouldn't be playing that ball. You know, outside the picture, you've got Kane, and that's where that's who he's trying to find.
Yeah.
And Wout Faes or however you say it, who actually had a fantastic game, really matched up well against Kane. He wins this ball just off shot, if you like. So the ball gets played forward. The problem for me is not only has Dier pushed too far up, like he did against Manchester City. So he was against Man City. He was following Silva, and he was ready to pounce. The difference was that when he did it against Manchester City, it's like he's lost his mind temporarily. When he did it against Manchester City, he did it when they had the ball, not when we had the ball. When we have the ball, he needs to drop behind Iheanacho. Like you say, it's like he's forgotten he's there. You know, in this position here, if you imagine with this picture that you can see that Leicester have the ball off shot, so on the halfway line, that's pretty good positioning. Yeah. But when we've got the ball, that's really, really bad because it only takes one interception and we are completely at sixes and sevens. Porro's not even in the shot. Tanganga's way too deep. Davis is trying to play a ball through. Hold on, let's look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, possibly 6 Leicester players to get into Kane. Now, I kind of get it. The argument would be if you get that ball into Kane and Kane flicks it around the corner, you've taken out the majority of the Leicester team and you'll be in on goal or something like that. But it's far too dangerous with this setup to be playing a ball like that. And Dier's out of position. I imagine that's Hojbjerg. I'm not quite sure what he's doing there. And Tanganga is far, far too deep. It's horrible all the way around. And for me, it comes from the fact that I doubt very much that those 3 centre-backs have trained very much together. No. It's simple. Just break down the communication. No one bossing it. No one saying you don't come forward, you sit back there, whatever. It's a really horrible goal to concede. And the other thing is, and we'll come on to this with the other goals. There's sometimes we say when we're analysing, they scored at the right times. To score pretty soon after we scored to get it back to 1-1. They scored at the right times. To score 2 minutes after they scored and then go into they scored at the right times. Actually, you need to flip that on its head. We defended badly and didn't have our game head on, if you want, for want of a better word, at all the wrong times. To give them that opportunity 2 minutes after they've scored. You reset. You first thing it has to be we don't concede for the next 5 minutes. That's it's simple as that. Momentum, massive, huge momentum shift, and it's so hard to come back from.
Yeah, those sorts of things, Paul, aren't they? They're sort of like what Seb said. Let's not concede. We don't seem to have players that, we don't seem to have anyone who, even when Hugo's captain in goal or Kane's up top, and even I see players like Hojbjerg as a type of player, but none of them seem to get hold of anybody and say, look, let's calm down, let's keep it steady for 5 minutes. Let's not concede again. It just seems to turn to shit, doesn't it? A lot of the time for Spurs in those sorts of scenarios.
I think it's well known that we're probably at our most vulnerable straight after we scored. I think it's probably true of many teams thinking about it, actually. Gibbo, can you put the slide back up?
Yeah, of course, mate. Yeah.
Sorry, mate. Do you mind? I disagree. I disagree totally with what Seb's saying. Surprisingly, this is something that Davies does, and Romero on the other side. We slot it into Kane. Kane is just too slow at this point. He's just too slow. We play this ball into Kane's feet, and 9 times out of 10, it makes it stick, and we're away. After this, Son has already spun round behind his man, and also Kulu is also making a dart towards the goal as well. Perisic has come short here. This is Perisic at the bottom of the thing, I think. Okay, Dier's come out to offer himself because he thinks Davies is going to slide that ball down to Perisic. Now, Perisic has got a man coming to as you see. What can Perisic do? He's going to bring on his left. He's going to play a square ball inside, or Hojbjerg. He's going to split these two players, bottom left, and we're away. It just didn't come off. And it's I was going to swear, it's a really lucky deflection to go straight in to where it went to. That's just the way it is. What you could say is that maybe Hojbjerg should be a bit more aware, and Dier doesn't need to know that doesn't need to leave Iheanacho. But I think that ball's going to be slid in to Perisic, and he's got to offer a square pass option for Perisic because he can't get it through. But we play this kind of football all the time, straight at Kane's feet, round the corner, and we're away. That's what we try to do. That's what we try to do, Seb. That's what we try to do here, and it didn't come off. That's it. That's it.
I just think it's too deep. It was too deep to be playing that ball. How far is that ball travelling to Kane? 30, 40 yards?
But Seb, that is a straight line pass into Kane. That's going towards Kane. Faye just gets there quicker because Kane, it goes across a lot, but it's a pretty much straight line when no one's going to intercept it. These two players, one's looking after Eric Dier, one's coming to close down Ivan Perisic. That ball's going to Kane's feet. Kane's just too slow. You can't see it off this picture.
I agree. I agree with you. Faisal, however you say it, got there first. But I just think you're looking at 40, 50 yards. No matter how good that ball is, that's a readable ball. And Kane's not the fastest. You can get around him. So it's a long time for that defender to read that. And yeah, I agree with you. It's a lucky deflection in the way it falls to Leicester.
The other thing, though, is that they were all over the second balls, and that's what was so good at City. We were so good at that. That's been lacking for ages, particularly in a lot of the home games I can remember, like Liverpool and Newcastle and Villa.
I do have to agree with Seb. There's a lot of space there, and we got pulled apart all over the place in this game. But with this, I think this is just an unfortunate ricochet and a very lucky ricochet for Leicester, and it goes straight to Iheanacho. And it is unfortunate Dier's caught up there, but I think that Dier's stepped up to offer himself as a square ball option if it slides into Perisic, and that's just the way it is. But Becky's right. We did get there was so much space. There was so much space. We didn't play as a compact unit like we did against City. There was just the pass lanes were like really, really open, and we'll come on to their other goals as well. But I do think that Iheanacho, when it ricochets off phase and goes into Iheanacho, he's so lucky. It literally curls into his feet, and he spins round, and then obviously Dier's out. He's been taken out by that lucky ricochet. But I just see it differently from Seb. Sorry, mate.
No, that's fine, mate. That's what it's all. Obviously, Fast did get there quicker than Kane. He was sharper to the ball. He read it. And the ricochet may have been lucky. I just feel like in that after that, it just looked bad, doesn't it? It looked bad, and it could have been dealt with better. But I think Kane not getting to that ball first, I think that just sums up Spurs' performance, because Kane was miles off it as well, wasn't he? Really? Do you know what I mean? That guy marshalled him extremely well, but just got there, and the desire to get there before Kane for that goal. Really,
I think our front three were very poor movement wise. You see that in the ground. We see that when we're sitting there. Guys behind me pointed out really, really well that the gaps between, Kulu wasn't dropping much to offer himself to be the link man. So speaking, Kane wasn't doing really, and we know Son's very hit and miss at the moment. Even after last week, he showed green shoots, but the movement from our front three was poor. There's no getting away from it. It's poor. It's almost like they couldn't replicate what they did last week.
Yeah. I think in a way as well. I think when you play City, that's sort of how we did. I thought we played well, but I think that's how you got to play. You've got to sort of go with it. they're gonna have the lion's share of the ball. You've got to play on the counter attack, and you've got to try and be clinical. And I think that suited us down to the ground. What annoys me is when we come against teams like Leicester, who were better than where their position are in the league. But I think sometimes you've got to. We're not very good at setting the tempo, are we? We're not very good at being on the front foot, not very. We're crap at it. We're useless at it, I think, and I think that's why we're a hard watch. But Becky, the third goal, I think it come from what. And when I was speaking about Perisic earlier, being looking sort of like his age, looking like a veteran, a ball came into him, and he's just sort of like put it round the corner, and it ain't gone to anyone. One ball straight through, and Iheanacho's ran it Dier. Dier's backpedaling, and then this is the one where I'm saying about Foster. Looked like he just went down. It took him an age to get down, but that was a killer when they scored that one. 2-1, you could probably go in at half-time and think regroup, but the third one really was a nail in the coffin, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it's like we said before, it's like the timing of the goal as well. You know, like people on Twitter were like, yeah, it's great. We've come from behind many times this season. We'll play better in the second half and trying to kind of feel positive about things. And then to concede that at that time, yeah, they weren't coming out. Even when they get in the second half, we've said this before, he made the substitutions far too late. You know, if we're 3-1 down at half time, he should have made subs at half time. Why is he doing it at 75? Now, if they did have an eye on tomorrow, then they deserve to get beat because that's just not the right way to go about it. But yeah, it was. And it reminded me of the kind of the near end of Vertonghen and Alderweireld, really, where they used to put their arms by their back and they used to kind of do like one knee drop, just hoping that they could block things. And it was very similar to that. Because he's been here forever.
Yeah. I mean, Seb, I'm not a massive fan of Dier. Is that on him, that goal, or do you think he's just in a no-win situation there?
No, he has to take some responsibility, but I just, it goes back to what I said before. You know, we can pin blame on people and individual errors and things like that, but as a collective, you know, you get into half time at 2-1. It's that simple. I was gutted actually because I was watching it on a stream on the telly. I had Sky Sports scores app on my phone that my little 6-year-old likes to watch. All the scores coming through, and obviously the stream's got a slight delay on it, and he's suddenly like 3-1. I was like, oh no. And then, literally about 30 seconds later, kind of almost like watching it in slow motion. I don't know whether you hold Dier responsible, Forster responsible. It doesn't really matter. For me, as a team, you make sure you get in at 2-1. Then it really is a different game at that point. At 3-1, it's going to take some kind of minor miracle. Yeah, I guess we've seen it before. We've seen it Leeds and scored 4, won 4-3 and stuff like that. But Leicester are pretty decent.
Good value.
Yeah, and they've got some good players. Look, they had a very tricky start to the season. I know certain people like to slate Brendan Rodgers and stuff, but he's working with no money. They've recruited well. You know, Feist looks decent. Suter's come in. I think we were linked with him in the summer. I've seen a bit of him at Stoke. It's done decent. The new lad at left back, whose name escapes me now. You might remember Christensen. Yeah, he looks good. They've always had, Tete. They've had attacking threat, obviously with Barnes and Maddison, Iheanacho. They've got Vardy's a little bit past it now, but a good option to come off. And this is what I mean when sometimes I think we get really carried away with the big names, and we've got to sign this player and that player. There's bargains to be had. There's money that you can spend a lot better. Look, it's a subtopic for another day. But for a team that apparently, or a club that has no money, has had to sell assets apparently and all this type of stuff, and they're watching the FFP, they've recruited very well.
Yeah. Top recruitment isn't about blowing loads of money, is it? Like you said, we'll come on to that later, but it's nowhere near that. There's other clubs who are outperforming. Not say outperforming us in the league, but footballing wise and like spending wise and getting better value for their money. But Paul, third goal for you, mate. What are you thinking when that goes in, and what are you thinking about the state of the defending?
So we lose the ball again round the corner, as you said, from Perisic. It comes in really early. Yeah, Perisic loses it. Enic picks it up, what, 30 metres out? 35 metres out? And Dier backs off the edge of the 18-yard box. And
then
blocks
he stopped,
off.
Paul. He stopped. Enic does.
He stands him up. Dier kind of stops as well. But what Dier does, he blocks off the left-hand side of the goal. So Enic can't pull it across him and put it into like Forster's left. It's got to go to Forster's right. We said Forster's 6'7", so that gives you possibly nearly a 3-metre wingspan, which is 9'9" if you work in old money like I do. That shouldn't be going in. It shouldn't be going in, quite simply, because Forster can only go one place. It can only go to Forster's right. And as you say, I think Forster, and it goes back to what I was saying about him in the warm-up, he goes down too late. Dier could have and should have engaged early. If he misses the tackle and catches Enic, it's a yellow. It's never going to be a red because there's covering players there. So he takes
Romero goes through him, doesn't he? Romero takes him,
or Toby grabs him around the waist and whatever. You don't. I just think Dier's culpable for going back to the edge of the 18-yard box. Absolutely should have engaged him earlier, but I also think Forster's have got a lot, because I think he should be getting down to that, because he knows 85% of the chance where it's going to go. It's going to go to his right. It's a good finish. It's got fade. It's got bend on it. But if you've got a wingspan that long, you should be able to cover that post. Just got down too slow. So 50-50 Dier. No, probably a bit more in Dier's favour to like basically say he should have engaged earlier, like we said. But yeah, Forster should be saving that as well. It's a horrible goal. And then I was right next to the away fans. Chewing gum and 50p pieces and everything came over, and I got it on the head, and I got chewing gum in my hair and stuff. It was just like, what the hell,
horrible.
3-1 down from going 1-0 up, and and then you knew it was game over.
But like, we're talking about Forster here now. Hugo hasn't had the best of times recently, but I think when you watch those sorts of performances, you realise what it's going to be to replace Prime Hugo is going to be a tough ask, isn't it?
He's always been a better shot stopper. Lloris has been his problem when it's been kind of like, fumbling things kind of like, half a metre away from him. But shot stopping and things like that, he's always been really good at for the size of him. I remember at the Southampton game when Forster came out this season, and me and Jack were like, he is absolutely huge. But it doesn't. He should be saving things like that. You'd think if someone who's taller would be able to save those kind of bending shots. It just reminded me of the goals that Leicester kind of scored, were the similar ones that Sonny scores against Leicester. Those ones where he kind of kills them in the bottom corner. But yeah, I think we're going to miss Lloris hugely, and that was even before we lost Bentancur.
Yeah. I mean, Seb, we'll go on to the second half now. There was no changes at halftime, was there? What are you thinking going into the second half? We were allowed to make 5 subs these days. You can more or less change half the team, so you could pretty much do something to try and stem the flow, but we never. We'll come on to those sorts of things later. But what are you thinking then, Seb, going into the second half? And then Barnes has a goal disallowed, then literally scores one a few minutes after. So what are you thinking? Your thoughts on the second half?
Obviously, you want to see kind of reaction in an attacking sense. I agree with you. I think you make a couple of changes. You freshen up. We've got a kind of works both ways. You've got a big game tomorrow, so if you didn't make a couple of changes, you can effectively say we're resting you for the midweek game or whatever. You want it even. We've had some right rubbish halves of football, even full games of football recently. Even the game against Arsenal, we're 2-0 down at half time. We came out actually for 15, 20 minutes in that second half at home, gave it a right good go, right? It wasn't great, but you could tell the effort was there, gave it a go. Maybe, Ramsdale pulled off a couple of really good saves. If one of those goes in, different game. I didn't feel like anything. It didn't start really. Never felt like we were going to do anything. It was, when are they going to score again? By the time an hour comes around and there's no changes, I was lost. Look, I think we've covered it on pods. I'm sure you covered it on YouTube's before. Antonio Conte's stubbornness is costing us. There is no two ways about it. Whether it's team selections, whether it's substitutions, whether it's formation, whether it's sticking with certain players who are woefully out of form, it's it's costing us. And people will put 2 and 2 together and maybe make 5. But for me, there was obviously, he's been unfortunately ill. And we seemed like a galvanised team last Sunday. I really felt that. Really felt like there was a cohesiveness running through the team. He comes back for 3 days. He picks players that we all question. Why have you done that? Who's he speaking to? Is he speaking to Stellini and saying, I'm going to put Tanganga in. I'm going to give Porro his debut next to Tanganga. I'm going to play Bentancur slightly on that side. That whole right side was completely lopsided. Yeah. So where's the advice? Where's the feedback? Someone saying, I don't think that works, because someone must have said something or noticed something or thought something, and then to not change it. It's just we've seen it now. It is Mourinho-esque. I am right, you are wrong. When Conte joined us, so I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but one of the things that was lauded about him, like I heard it over and over and over again, was, remember when Chelsea went 3-0 down to Arsenal and he changed it at half-time, went to his 3 at the back system, and then they won 18 games on the trot or something.
Until they played Spurs,
Yeah, until they played Spurs. And he was being lauded as this kind of guy who could switch it up, make the changes that were needed. Actually, it's proved to be the reverse of that he thinks that this system is the only system, that his system is right. He will force players into it. You can't tell me that Eric Dier doesn't know how to play in a 4-man defence, that Christian Romero doesn't know how to play in a 4-man defence, that Ben Davies doesn't know how to, because they've all done it. So why are we there's not many teams I know who are so bad defensively playing 3 at the back, so terribly bad. And we looked at absolute 6s and 7s for the entirety of that game, pretty much, barring the first 10 minutes. The whole second half wasn't a fun watch. That we looked clueless.
And it should have been 5-1 as well. It shouldn't have been 4-1, should it? Should have been 5-1.
Yeah, right now.
I mean, we can come on to that anyway now, Seb, because I think, like we said, the rest of the Leicester game was just poor, wasn't it? They just saw the game out. Like I said, Barnes had the 1 disallowed. He scored again. We'll come on to the injury to Bentancur because we'll discuss him as a player because he's been so important to us. But, Paul, what are your thoughts on it? Because I'm with Seb. I think we're sort of singing, me and Seb are singing off the same hymn sheet. I've been questioning the management of the team for a long time. I'm not questioning Conte being a good coach. He is, but being a good coach for Spurs at the minute, I'm finding quite difficult. And for all the reasons that Seb said, no change at halftime.
So let me just interrupt you there. Why are you saying he's a good coach? What have you seen what have you seen? No, I'm not leading this. I'm not saying he's not. When you said very quickly there, he's a good coach. Where have you seen that in the last year?
Okay, not in the what I'm talking about is
this
probably
season.
I worded that wrong then. So he's come to us with a reputation. He's won the league at Chelsea, and he won the league. In Italy, he took over from Juventus. I know Juventus were on the way down, but he has had a good career, hasn't he, as a coach? But I don't at Spurs. I don't think he's a good coach at the minute, Seb. I don't.
All those things that we saw last season though have disappeared. So I'd say he was a good coach from March last year, April last year. So the way we were playing and the way the team was, the team spirit, the way they was kind of talking and the whole kind of feel of the team, that's what everyone was saying. Yeah, Conte's punched above his weight. He's done really well with a squad that probably doesn't deserve to be in the position it is, but he got up there. And it was saying, he's done it with other players in the past, turned them into players. And he did that for us last year. We then improved a little bit in the summer with people like Richarlison. And it just seems from minute 1 this season that hasn't been there. Even the Southampton game wasn't dreadful. No, but the way they've played just changed, and that's got to be on him. And we all had that positivity last season because we could see something that Conte was doing with players that probably weren't good enough. And And then we've got to this season, and we've just been having to endure, and that's the word, isn't it? Endure these kind of matches. That's why City last week was such fun, because it was like the way we remembered them playing, and we saw a little bit of it at Palace, but that's because Palace were awful. So that's what's annoying, is that yes, I agree with all that. You know, he's done all these things in other clubs, but we saw something of him last season in getting to our players, and some reason that I know there's been a lot of it, and everyone keeps saying the same thing. He's ill, he's had a lot to deal with, but something's not right. And watching him get on the aeroplane today, my God, don't get me wrong, I don't want to see him singing and dancing and skipping on the plane, but crikey, they looked really sullen, and you know, there's just something not right.
He's got a lead from the front, and unfortunate as it is, his energy has gone. There, as you discussed, there are multiple reasons for that, and multiple serious reasons. You know, let's not over dramatize it, if you like. We've all been in jobs where we've had personal issues or whatever, and we've had enough, right? He's had enough. He doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to be anywhere. I firmly believe
that if he home.
He won't go into another job yet. He wants to be at home. For me, personally, I'd put him out of his misery, because he is miserable. As Becky said, those players going onto that plane looked miserable. You expect a thumbs up or a wave or, you know, hello or anything, right? But Paul, you can't nod your head, mate. They looked like they would rather be anywhere else.
I'm disagreeing with you again, Seb. I'm not nodding my head. I'm disagreeing with you.
Oh, yeah, sorry, shaking your head. Yeah, but they all look miserable. And then the week he's not there, we get a fantastic result, and it looks like a cohesive team.
But I'll come straight to you, Paul, after this. But that was the point I was making earlier. Like Stellini said that him and Mason had spoke about Dier moving up into the midfield against City. They adapted. They made a change. They did something to affect the game. And I watch at the minute, and I don't really think he does it. And I think I totally agree with you. I don't think he wants to. He's lost that. You mirror the team mirror is a mirror image of a good coach. You know, like, and he was last season, like Becky said, he was getting players up, and you could see him on the sideline. He had that energy, and the crowd fed off it, and I'm sure the players did, and that's gone. What do you think, Paul? Because obviously, are you disagreeing with us on that point?
I think he's a good coach. I think he is. I think he's a good coach. I think he's been hit badly, body blows wise, with what's happened to him, with his personal issues. You cannot underestimate that. You look to your right, and the man who's been there for 25 years is not there. I'm sorry. I'm not going to go into what I used to do, but you know, it's horrible when you look and there's the person you think is going to be there is not there. It's massive.
Sure.
I think he come back too early. He Stellini at the weekend. Stellini was in the technical area, and I think Conte sat down for most of it. I think, if I remember correctly, and it seems that the desire isn't there at the moment. This thing about going onto the plane, I think it's quite funny. They've just got absolutely slapped about by a team that's got a worse defensive record than them. Probably the worst they played on Conte, including the Palace game when Jaffic got sent off. We talked about earlier. I don't expect it to be like all fun and games. I don't expect anything. Get on and put it as right as quick as possible. Hang on a second. And put it right as quick as possible. So there might be another meeting like there was after Fulham. I think, Becky, you mentioned it last time on YouTube. There was a meeting or something, and maybe it's going to be another one. You know, this is a chance now. This is a chance now for them to, what I used to call, pull the wagons around, and it's us against them. It's been a horrific week, as we talked about earlier. You know, you cannot plan for these injuries and what's happened this week. If you think you can, you're lying, right? You're lying because you can't. Okay, so now's the time for them to Mason. It won't be Mason. It'll be or some of the senior players. So, right, lads, this is where, like, you know, we kind of like stick together now, and we try and put ourselves right. Some of these senior pros, some of these elite players, and Kane and Hojbjerg, who's a national captain, and things like this. They've got to now start to think it's us against them. Everybody's written us off. We've had this thing. We've lost our probably our second most important player after Kane. We've lost our World Cup captain, etc., etc. Right, this is us. Like let's use this. Let's create this negativity and do something. Because if we're not, we're just going to sleepwalk and we're just going to melt into the rest of the season. And he's not going to be here. I still think he's a good coach. I don't think he's going to be here in the summer. But I'd like to see some kind of response from the weekend.
That's why, though, Paul, I don't think he should. I don't want to say about him getting. I don't want to say that, but because we know he's not going to be there, and when I look at, I know we were good against City. Let's discount the Preston game a bit because I thought they were awful. Fulham, we got the 1-0 win. We've lost. What have we lost? 7 in 13 or 14, something like that. Premier League games, and I look at it and I think, if you have the conversation, and this probably comes to Levy as well, you're looking at that and you know what it's like in the dressing room, in the atmosphere. You look at that and you think, do we need to have the conversation? You know, Antonio, is this for you? Because we need to be all in now. We need to, and if he's like, look, I'll get to the end of the season, then you've got to make that decision, haven't you? And if the guy who a lot of people think we are going to get in, or two of the names that Spurs fans are talking about and have been touted of like Pochettino and Tuchel are out there ready to come in, then do you bring them? I'm not saying that's who. I'm not saying that's who it's going to be, but you could get someone in and they could start working with the players and you get the new manager bounce. Seriously,
so this could be avoided if he just changed formation. So people putting that in the comments. Just why don't we just change formation? If it's either he's here or he's not here, and like Paul says, if he continues to stay here, we will literally just sleepwalk the way to the end of the season.
I said this the other week, though, didn't I, Beck? That's what
I do agree with a little bit. If he wants to go, and then get somebody else in, new manager bounce. There's been so many changes in managers this week, and it worked for Everton last week. It hasn't worked tonight, but that could be avoided by him just changing formation. And because we've now kind of almost forced into it, though, tomorrow might be the opportunity because we've got to change it, haven't we?
Unfortunately, Becky, you're not forced into it because we've not got any injuries to defenders. Our injuries are to our midfielders and attacking players. I would like to see us play 4-4-2. That personally, tomorrow I'm talking. I'm not talking about every game. I'm talking tomorrow. Milan tend to play a formation where they match you up. Whatever you do, they do. They go man for man. I would like to see us change it about tomorrow. I wouldn't play Kulusevski. I wouldn't play Son. I'd have them on the bench. I'd have Kane and Richarlison up front. I think Richarlison, Champions League means a lot to him. As we saw against Marseille. I'd go quite defensive. I'd play Perisic as a wide midfielder on one side. Play Pedro Porro perhaps on the other side. Go a little bit more attacking that way with Emerson Royale in behind him. And play 4 at the back. Do I think he's going to do it? Not a hope. He did it against Chelsea. And we brought it back to 2-2. That's the only time, isn't it? It's the only time. We brought it back to 2-2. We brought it back to 2-2 at a ground that we hadn't played very well at for last however many years I've been going there, and it's over there. Do
you think he'd start that, Paul? Do you think he'll do that?
I don't think he'll start it, but I think he's saying he's tactically inflexible is a bit of an insult.
No, do you think you have to look at the amount of games?
It is, Seb. I've just told you the reasons.
I think he's tactically.
So that was just lucky. That was just lucky, was it, against Chelsea?
But no, it's once.
It's the once he's done it this season and it's worked.
We've had plenty of opportunity for him to do it again.
we haven't had any injuries to like key kind of defenders yet. Romero's been out. He can if he wants to change. I'm sure he'll do what the hell he wants. And I think us sitting here saying that he won't change it when he's changed it. Okay, maybe only once, but that's wielded results. He's going to have to do something because he cannot. Yeah, with the injuries this week, it has to change. I believe it has to change.
When you say it has to change, do you mean formation?
Yes, I do. I think it has to. I think it has to.
But do you think
it cannot rely on basically a 20 and a 22-year-old, however good they are. Sarr is decent. I don't think he's Champions League decent at the minute. And Skipp is. We know what we get with Skipp. I think he'll go. I think he'll go 3-5. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes 3-5-2 tomorrow.
Who would you play in the middle three then, Paul? If you're picking 3-5-2,
I'd play Kulu to 10, and I would stick Kane with Richarlison. Yeah, that's what I would go. I'd go 3-5-2.
So, in your opinion, though, Paul, I'll come back to you in a sec, Beck. Sorry, if like you saying, he has to change it now. He has to do something. If we don't see that, then in the next we got West Ham. If we don't see those changes, then what do you think? Where do we go then? Where do we go with him then?
Where do we go with Conte?
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think we allow? Do we allow to keep the same thing keep happening?
Okay, sorry. I think if we drop out of Champions League and we lose badly against West Ham, he won't be here. I believe that. I do believe that. Where we go with him, if he doesn't change it, then the only way I'm going to say it, and people might laugh now. If I go outside to my kitchen and I've got kind of like basic ingredients, I'm not going to turn to a Michelin chef. I've got to be able to like cook with what I've got. And if he wants to play this ultra defensive system but hasn't got the quality defenders, then what's he doing? I don't get that. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's like
I know exactly what you're saying.
There's an argument to be had that you want to like produce this kind of like style of football, but you don't have the ingredients, but you still want to do it. And what you've got now is a crappy microwave mess to keep the kind of like the chip mouthful. Do you know what I mean? And it's just, I think that's going to be his downfall. I think after me saying he has to change it, and I believe he has to change it if he's serious about staying at Tottenham. But if he doesn't change it, then he's not serious about going to Tottenham. That's what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Beck,
sorry, I've
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Beck, so what do you think needs to happen now then? Do you think he needs to change it? Do you think he'll just stick, or do you think it's pointless thinking that because he's just going to stick with what he's got? What do you think?
Well, it's like if we do, but at the moment it feels like we're taking things game by game. It's like before, we thought we turned a corner, and then obviously we've had loads of injuries, so we aren't the same team that we were last Sunday. So we take it game by game. We were talking off air before we started. You know, I can see a snatch and a draw, or maybe a 1-0 loss tomorrow, and that's not the end of the world. Going back to the thing about them getting on the airplane, like I said, I don't want them, high-fiving each other as they're getting on. But all I've seen all day on Twitter is people packing their suitcases and going off to Milan. And there's a lot of people that are spending a lot of money to go out and watch them. All we want is a little bit of fight from the players. If we have a bit of fight, like we saw at Liverpool and Newcastle, and we don't win, then that's fine. We didn't see any of that. And then once Bentancur got injured at Leicester, the whole game was just so fragmented. We were just sort of seeing the game out. We just want some fight tomorrow. And that has to start with Conte. And, if he's not well, he shouldn't have come back. He should have stayed away, kept with Stellini. If he came back, he's there to do a job. Like you said, it's got to come from him. If he wants us to go and get a result tomorrow, he has to be the one to show us how to do that. Now, I'm not wise enough in football formations to work out how that will be. Sarr was played in the World Cup. Skipp's, for his age, is not experienced enough, but maybe he sees something in them tomorrow. I don't think we'll start any different formation tomorrow. I think he will have the two of them in the middle. But he needs to have an option if we go 2-0 down really quickly. And like we said on Saturday, the substitutions he made were late, and he brought on Sanchez and Royal. And everyone is going, what? Where are the attacking substitutions? And there was a point, I think, where Son was playing in the middle, wasn't he? Because Richarlison was on. But tomorrow, with the atmosphere and the way it is in San Siro, if we go 2-0 down really quickly, and he doesn't change it up, it could be carnage, and it could be 5 or 6. So it's what he thinks. Me and Dave were talking about it yesterday. That when we used to go into these Champions League games, when it was away goals, it was all about getting that away goal. Tomorrow's not about that. It's about just keeping it close for the next, for the return home leg. And if I just think he might have a way to change it up, and it might be that Kane drops deeper, or, and I agree with Paul completely. Richarlison deserves a start in the Champions League. I'm just how he starts it, how he sets up, will be how we start, and that could go well. It could be disastrous.
Yeah,
Emerson
he's got to
Royale
set
has
the
to
tone.
start tomorrow. Sorry. Emerson
No,
Royale
no,
has to start tomorrow. They've got Rafael Leao. He is lightning. He's one of the most exciting attackers in Europe. If we play and think we can play an attacking wing back against him on that side, we're in all heaps of trouble. Look, on the plus side, Milan aren't amazing, and they've I think they've had a few better results recently, but they were in a right bad run of form, losing heavily on a regular basis. They turned it around slightly. There are worse teams we could be facing tomorrow. There you go.
This is their team. I'm not sure. I've got two teams up here. John's put on.
They tend to match, so they tend to be they're quite adjustable. Hernandez can come in and play as a defense on that left hand side. Leao can move forward. Sometimes Divock Origi plays. Krunic drops out. Tonali moves more as a defensive mid. So they're very flexible. They've got some good players, but like I said, they're not Real Madrid. They're not the worst team we could be facing in the Champions League. But I do agree with Becky. I fear if we start badly, it could be car crash time.
How can you see it going, Paul? What are your thoughts on this game tomorrow? Because it is a big game, isn't it? It's like, really, it's a break from the Premier League. It's a chance to get back out, in the elite competition. Come from a bad defeat, get yourselves out there, get back on, get on the, I was going to say on the front foot, but we don't do that. So start getting the, let's build on that crap back there, and let's drive forward. How do you see it going?
I see, if I'm doing it with the guys tonight in the hotel, tomorrow during training and the warm-ups, this is a restart. It's a chance to get everything back on track. We're out of London, we're out of the Premier League. Like, what happened Saturday is what's happened. As you said, Milan aren't great. They've got some good players. They've got, it's horrible to see Divock Origi there, which obviously, Origi likes a goal against us, and obviously Giroud is, as we saw in the World Cup, he's still a very, very good forward. But I'd be happy with a draw, to be honest. To come away from a draw, I still want to be in this competition. I know it's the likelihood of us winning it is quite small, but I like playing these teams. I feel excited watching these games on the TV or going to the ground and watching them. I'd be happy to come out there with a draw, or not get beat badly.
We do want to go through.
Go on, mate. Go on.
We do want to go through, don't we? It's like this is what we battled all last season for, and this is what we're all kicking up a stink while we're not playing great, because we want to be in the top 4 this season so we can play in this tournament again. So there's no point going in it to make up the numbers. You go in tournaments to get as far as you can and hopefully win it. So they should be, no matter what the team is, they should be going for it tomorrow.
Becky makes a really good point. Like, people packing and going there. I mean, I don't want to go political, but cost of living crisis, etc. Flights out to Milan, hotels, Valentine's Day, etc. I mean, that's not cheap. People are probably staying there for maybe 2-3 days. I hope we go there and we give it a go, or we just don't hopefully bore the opposition into some kind of mistake and then we hit them. I hope we try and at least give it a go for these people, because at the end of the day, is what I said last week on the podcast, is when the team are playing well and you've got at home 60,000 people, you've got away 10 or 8,000 people tomorrow night. It's a great place to be when you've got like-minded souls bouncing up and down and showing love and appreciation for this team. And there's nothing like that. And hopefully tomorrow's a chance to get that kind of back on track, which was so powerful last weekend. Not at the City home game. What I would like to say, and I hope that if we do get done, I hope that if we get done badly tomorrow, that Sarr and Skipp are kind of protected a little bit because it's not their fault that their manager likes 13 or 14 specific players, and they're not in that chosen kind of group at the moment. It's not. They're coming into this pretty much cold. I think Skipp started 4 or 5 games.
Oh,
yeah, four or 5 games. Sarr started 1, and they're going in there and they're being asked to play against in a Champions League kind of like knockout game. And I hope if he does go, if it goes badly tomorrow, and I hope they're protected. I hope that whoever comes out in the press or some of the senior players, like they kind of like say, look, it wasn't Skipp, or unless they've had absolute calamity, then obviously social media is going to go mad. But it's not their fault, and this does come back to Conte a little bit. It's like he hasn't prepared them enough by giving them enough opportunities this season. Does that make sense? And that's what I'm a little bit scared about tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. So, Paul, tomorrow then, against AC Milan, what formation are we starting with, and score prediction?
3-5-2, Forster in goal, Romero, Dier, and probably Longley, Ivan Perisic and Emerson Royale, with a midfield of
Sarr and Skipp, that
Skipp, and then will he go 2 or 3 up front? I don't know. I think he'll probably go 3 up. Probably go 3 up front. Unfortunately, even though I've said what he should change it, he probably will go that way. And we'll win 1-0, and it'll be a Harry Kane penalty.
Okay, very specific, Seb. Formation and score prediction off you, mate.
Yeah, exactly the same as Paul for the formation and the players. 3-4-3. I always try and be positive. I think we'll get done through the middle. I hope I'm wrong. You turn this all round on its head, and we develop, and we see, Sarr and Skipp got an opportunity tomorrow. If you look at it like that, could be the making of one or both of them. Okay, Skipp is experienced enough. Sarr's been to a World Cup. These are boys that know their way around Premier League or European or football or tournament football or whatever. We've got a big game, and then we've got West Ham and Chelsea at home. Come out of those undefeated, couple of wins, things look good. We can forget about Leicester. We'll be 2 weeks' time. We can forget about that. We'll be in the last 8 of the Champions League, hopefully still in the FA Cup, pushing for 4th. Everything's rosy. However, as we've said, could go the other way. It's really, the season has felt for a long time like it's on a bit of a knife edge. We discussed it. The fans are split. I didn't hear any Levy out. Paul, you'll be able to tell me, but I didn't hear any of that.
There was none.
We've heard, there's a big section of the fan base who think Conte's done, as we discussed. There's a big section of the fan base who think Conte's the man, give him what he wants. Big section of the fan base that want Enic out. Big section of the fan base who don't rate any of our players bar Harry Kane and Bentancur. A lot of the fans think it needs a better coach to put the team together. Look what Poch did, etc., etc., etc. So it constantly feels like it's going one way or the other. I think what has happened is that the team has been like that as well. We've won 1, lost 1, come back, chucked it in. It's been different pretty much every game. A good run, 2, 3, 4 games, and things look rosy. A bad run, and it tips it completely the other way. And I think if it is a bad run, suppose if we were to go out of Europe and out of the FA Cup, for instance, and not do great in the league, I wouldn't mind betting that Conte's not there. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, from a Daniel Levy and a club point of view, and from even an Antonio Conte point of view, if a statement came out saying we've decided to part ways because of emotional tiredness, if you like, for want of a better word, needs to go home and recuperate medically, emotionally, physically, mentally, whatever, doesn't look too bad.
It can be one of those mutual 100%. Consent, can't it? They can say it was like by mutual consent, can't they?
Yeah.
I read today that Conte's lost more than Andre Villas-Boas did while he was Tottenham.
3 less games.
3 less games, yeah.
I mean, I agree with you, Seb. I don't think if that were to happen, people would understand that, wouldn't they? It's just what I don't want to see the club do is just let it drift on. Just let it like sleepwalk to the end of the season. While we're out the FA Cup now, we're out the Champions League.
What he might do, Daniel Levy, is wait until the week before the FA Cup final. Get rid of him then.
What if we're in it?
History says it might happen.
The other thing that's worrying me quite a lot this week is that we've had like 4 injuries this week, haven't we? And you know, we get 2 or 3 more, it's going to be the barest of squads ever, isn't it? Because at the moment we're like, well, like Paul was saying before, it's not really happened, you know, to the defence. And when Romero's been out, he's come back in, and Kulusevski's come back in.
Get into it then. Bentancur, obviously, ACL, isn't it? End of season. You know, if he does well, he'll be back at the start of next season. So how's that going to affect us?
Paul will know this better than me, but when I was at Villa last year, when Doherty got injured, and he got injured right in front of the away fans, it was just everybody's heart sank, because you just knew he did the same thing. He got up, didn't Emerson taking some pills? He tried to play on, and you know, Bentancur got injured on something seemingly fairly innocuous in front of the away fans. And you know, watching it on TV when he needed the gas and air, and the way he was like screaming out, it was, you just knew. I said to Jack, you knew this was something that was not, he wasn't going to come back from. And you know,
why did they let him walk, Paul? Why did they let him walk off the pitch?
Okay, so he gets smashed and he hobbles, and then he looks down at his knee, and then he goes down. He knew straight away. You could hear it from where I was. I was 25 meters away from him, 30 meters away from him. Horrible. I've seen a lot of injuries, unfortunately, and yeah, he was done. Dier goes running over to him. Davis, you know, fairly senior member, experienced international, kind of like does the kind of sub thing straight away. Okay, so the doctor comes on and the physios come on, and he's not moving, and he's just put his head, and his face is contorted in pain. He's not the kind of guy to do that, is he? We know the kind of player he is. He's not the kind of guy to do that. Kane has walked over. Kane's took one look at it, and he's also done the sub thing as well. The St. John's and the stretcher crew come on as well. They've got the titanium 2-part thing you slot together and stuff. He waves them off. Bentancur waves the medical team off, the stretcher team off. He gets up. He does a kind of flex thing with his knee. The doctor says him no. He walks off, and then that's it. And then you know, and then he's crouching down. He's trying to flex it, and yeah, you could just tell the way he's walking. He was putting no weight on it. It was all on the other leg. And
would he have done more damage by walking, or is
he probably could have done. He probably
so
could
why
have
did
done.
the medical team not stop him from doing it?
It's difficult. It's difficult because you know you basically you haven't got X-ray eyes. You can feel the knee, the patella. You can feel the kind of ligament. You can feel underneath where the cruciate is and things, and you can feel it. You're really asking for feedback from the patient. You're asking for like, what's going on? Can you do this? I touched this. Do you feel this happening? Etc. Etc.
Right.
They've probably gone through that. It's very, very difficult to say that it's definitely an ACL and MCL. Yeah, at the point of the accident or the incident. So he probably said, no, I can walk. He can probably say, well, you could say that, no, I want you to go on a stretcher. If it was Theo Walcott, he'd be straight on that stretcher, wouldn't he? Let's be honest. Yeah. And he would have been stretched off, but he walked around. What I will say about that as well is that we were singing the Bentancur song. He got absolute fucking, he got dog's abuse from their fans. Got stuff chucked at him, got bottles thrown at him, and he was going like, pipe down, little people. And the medical staff was saying, like, don't say anything. He was really badly abused, coming around in front of us, around behind the goal, and around to the touch, around to the benches. ACL 6 to 8 months. He's not going to play. Probably might even miss preseason if it's bad. This is serious. It's a serious injury, and Christ, as Becky said, it's you know, Bentancur, Hojbjerg, Sess is made of glass. I don't think we're going to see Sess. I really don't. I don't think he's just too injury prone, that lad. He's just there's something weird going on with his legs. He doesn't trust himself to hit that top speed. You can see it at the ground when we go. You can see anyway, so Sessegnon is out, which is no big surprise. If we can manage these injuries by less training volume, then somebody in the sports science or the physio department have got to say, lads, we're training too hard. You know, you can't expect the same 15, 16 players to train at the same intensity and then play at the same intensity. So you can't just keep going to the well expecting the water to be there. Does that make sense? So somebody
100%.
somewhere. So these injuries could be avoidable with better load management and better training management. Obviously, impact injuries, what happened on Saturday, you can't legislate for, but you can. If somebody has gone through Bentancur, gone through Bissouma with a tackle and training and smashed him, that's avoidable. That's bad training and bad kind of like.
Wasn't Bissouma a stress fracture? I don't quite know what that means, but is that something that's an injury, like an impact injury, or is that something that's just happened over the course of time?
Could be probably happening over the course of time, but then as a professional sportsman, 3 times a week, you see the physio. How's your sleep? Can I have a urine sample? I'm going to take a blood biopsy. I'm going to do this. You can look at the lactate levels. You can look at the pyruvic acid in your. You can get a better understanding what's going on inside an athlete's body now. You'll get like a bone density scan. You'll get like what's called a DEXA scan and an MRI, and they'll say, "Yeah, can you have a quick look at my ankle, please?" You know, and they've got that stuff at Tottenham Way. You know, this stuff is completely avoidable, Seb. Right. Completely avoidable. You don't see players at Chelsea or City or Liverpool, you know, or Leeds who are really fit. You don't see these guys going down with that because it's monitored. It just seems that too many things are happening which we could probably, like, with better periodization and better kind of like training management, we could avoid. You know, this thing with Bissouma could have been scanned 2 or 3. He said, "Yeah, you know what? I feel a little bit iffy, man. Could you have a quick look at it?" You know, obviously, we've talked about Cess already, but if you're getting injured in training, something wrong in training.
Because didn't Skipp get injured by somebody stood on his foot as well, and that was in training, wasn't it?
That was Romero, wasn't it? Or was it?
They never said, did they? They never said.
It's just that you've got to look at the athlete as a whole. You've got to look at and this is what I do. What I'm not going to go too far off kilter because this is my job. But you've got to look at someone holistically. You've got to look at sleep, emotional level, stress level. These guys are assets. They're multi-million-pound assets. You know, for a high-performing business, which Spurs is. You know, treat them as such. Treat them. Give them every responsibility. Milan do it. PSG do it. The German league, the Ajax are world leaders in looking after their players. They put them in the middle and everything off them, you know, diet, emotional intelligence, sports psychology, everything. They do everything to make their players to be as ready as they can when they go over the white line. It seems that we're not doing that, which is mad, you know? And so, to go back to what I was saying, I think sometimes that these injuries could be avoided. Certainly by the sounds of the Bissouma one, could have been, you know, a little bit more, as Seb said, a little bit more kind of like, you know, maybe a little bit more honesty from the player, maybe a little bit more kind of like proactiveness from the sports science people saying, let's have a look at that ankle. You know, we've got a bit of swelling there. Maybe the massage is like seeing a bit of cartilage or can't get rid of a knot or something. Maybe you need to get that looked at.
How unfortunate for him now, because I think we'd probably say now would be his time. Obviously, you know, Bentancur out, in he comes and, you know, shows what you've got, and he's not got that opportunity.
Can I just, my last point on this, Bissouma, is that, but we're not playing into his strengths, are we?
No.
He absolutely butchered us last season. He is a great 8. He's breaking the lines.
He's progressive though, Paul, isn't he? He's a progressive player.
Exactly, Gibbo. So tell me, and this is where maybe Conte, I go against maybe what I said about Conte being a coach. Beck jumping in at any point as well. It's just that it's like, why are you trying to get someone who is that talented with a ball just to pick it off and then play it wide? You're just like, that's like somebody being really good at kind of like, I don't know, gymnastics. Like, can you just do a headstand today, please?
It makes no sense, Paul. It makes no sense. But this is what my point is with a lot of the stuff with Conte. It's like, why aren't you bringing Richarlison on when Son's been rubbish and it's now like in 75 minutes in and it doesn't make any sense.
Or playing him up front. Why? Everyone keeps saying that. Why doesn't Richarlison just play up front? That's what he played. He plays for Brazil. Why does he have to go on the left wing or the right wing? Play him up front.
That's my whole point with the Conte thing, Paul, is that a lot of this stuff just doesn't make sense. Like
now it's beginning to come home to roost now, unfortunately. Is that, you know, Yeah, he's now got to adapt. He's got to improvise, and he's got to overcome a little bit. And we'll see. And I mean, Seb, I've disagreed slightly about what we were saying earlier, but he's got to do something now or the club have got to take it out of his hands and say, okay, Antonio, thanks very much. Close the door and a way out. I see. That's the only way I see it. It's just especially after this week. I can't remember a club. I was talking about this with my client this morning. I can't remember a club having this bad injury to key personnel. Do you know what I mean? I can't remember it happening to Chelsea. I certainly can't remember it happening to like Arsenal. You know, I know they've had like players out, but they this season like Hazard, but I can't remember like 3 or 4 players of such importance all going down in a 9-day period, including game day on Saturday. It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, I don't like using the word Spursy, but it's like that is a bit kind of unfortunate.
But like you said, though, is it come down to other things? Because I've seen loads of people saying, you know, in a World Cup season, why did we have that training session in South Korea that had them all throwing up at the end? Yeah. And is it all, you know, kind of coming to a head now that although Conte wants them to be fitter and wants them, I remember we talked about earlier in the season where we had the last minute winners who were like, yeah, we've got that kind of extra 10 minutes of sharpness, and that's because of what they did in South Korea and the way Conte had them. And that seemed like a positive that, you know, teams were kind of fading a bit and we were kind of pushing on. But now we're getting injuries and you know, it's got to have rocked the players. It's got to have made them think, I'm the next one. And like I said, we're going to get to the point where we've got nobody left yet. And, you know, we're kind of clinging on. And Paul's exactly right. You know, we have someone I saw said today that, you know, before Leicester, we were kind of looking forward to the next kind of 3 weeks. There was going to be some really great fixtures. Milan aren't, you know, firing all cylinders. We've got West Ham, who, yes, they play their cup final against us every season, but, you know, they're for the taking. Then you've got the FA Cup against Sheffield United, and there were some really decent fixtures. And now we're thinking, 8 or 9 players out. That's not the same fixture list. And, you know, we get a couple more knocks tomorrow, like we said, just about Perisic, or, you know, God forbid Kane pulls up. You know, it's quite. I think that's why everybody's so down, because it's quite worrying. You know, it's just, we're only just over halfway through the season as well. There's a lot of the season still left, isn't there?
Yeah,
needs to earn his money, doesn't he? We need to see something different starting tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's long short. Yeah. We need even before the players get on the pitch. We need tomorrow. Look, from a selfish point of view, from a fan's point of view, I want to see that team come out tomorrow, and I want to see it's doing something different. You know, I will be disappointed. I think we all will from the conversation that we've had tonight. If it's 3-4-3, go again. Yeah, just churn it out. Go again. Do it.
Hope the mistakes won't happen.
That's it. We've got too many mistakes in us. Change it round, freshen it up. That's the main thing that I think we look worn out. And mentally worn out. That was, I think, what I was trying to say about the plane, Paul. I don't expect big waves and everything else.
That's a bit rude about that, mate.
It was a mental fatigue. That's what I would say.
They look really flat.
Conte's mentally fatigued.
He's flat.
Yeah, and that will pass its way down, I'm sure. It does in any business, in any operation. The guy at the top is not at it, it'll fall down. And like I say, we're not blaming him. We're not. I'm not necessarily having to go at him. There is some serious shit that's gone down for him in the last 6 to 8 months, right? So there's no apportioning blame, but it's not working. So 1 or 2 things: sort it out, turn it round, earn your money, because you're still taking a huge wage, okay? Or if you've had enough, that's absolutely fine. But the club and Conte need to recognise that. And get it sorted going forward. I don't think it's a big deal, personally. I don't think it's a big deal. It's a big deal if he's on a 5-year contract and we're desperate to keep him. He's not desperate to stay. I don't think we're particularly desperate to keep him if we need to finish it early. But I don't necessarily want that. What I want is tomorrow something different, effort. You know, if we can get a result, we can get a draw even, and feel like, okay, we're moving forward. Hojbjerg back for the weekend. Porro maybe a little bit more integrated, whatever. I'd like to see Richarlison get not just 10 minutes. I see, there's an opportunity for someone like Danjuma to come on, show us what he's about, and let's see what happens.
I think what we all want.
Romero's back tomorrow as well. I think
Yeah,
Romero
he'll make a difference, Paul.
will make a difference. And also, like, Decky being back there, in Italy as well, and and these kind of guys. I think Romero's a big addition. I think he
calms Dier down as well.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Beck. Yeah, they are. You see them at the lane, the lane, and they're always talking to each other, and I think you're right. I think Romero being back will have a positive effect. Well, at least I hope so.
I think what we all want regarding the Conte thing is we all want Conte to want to be at Spurs, and we want him to want to be at Spurs and want to improve the team and do things. But we're just not seeing that, are we? I think that's what we all want. None of us want to say we've had enough of this bloke. We want him to be there, he needs to want to be there. And if he doesn't want to, then and he's not going to change things, then the club are going to have to change things, aren't they? In my opinion, but tomorrow's as good a place as any. And like you said, Seb, I think it's just like, look, the chips are down now, guys. We've all got to muck in, and you want to see him lead from the front, don't we?
Yeah.
But one thing I was going to say, Seb, I don't not stating the obvious, but Bentancur is going to be a massive miss, isn't he? Just absolute class act. He's our second most important player, I think. He kind of knits everything together. But as I said before, and it's an opportunity. You've got to look on the flip side. Look, I go back to Football Manager. When you lose a player on Football Manager, you have to answer these press questions and the kind of prerequisite that you get a list of answers that you can say, and it says, how do you feel about? The question would be, how do you feel about Bentancur being out for the next 6 to 8 months? And the stock answer is, it's unfortunate, but we've got a squad of players. That's what we have a squad of players for, and it's a chance for someone else to step in and lay claim. And all right, Skipp and Sarr a bit undercooked, but someone's got to start somewhere. And Sarr, from what we've seen, particularly, I think I like the look of him. Said it
he's good.
Said it in a couple of things. He reminds me of Patrick Vieira. Not a bad player. So
he seems like the kind of guy who's got some shoulders on him, and he doesn't mind taking a little bit of responsibility as well. When I've seen him play, demands a ball. He's not scared about turning around to someone like Longley and telling him what he thinks. When someone doesn't move for the ball, he pointed at Son a few times, and Son didn't move for the ball when he played. I've got really. I mean, he's a young footballer of the year in Africa.
He was, wasn't he?
One of the hottest properties in French league. Done really well to get him. Okay, it's not his fault that Conte, as we talked about earlier, we alluded to earlier, likes 14 players, and he's not one of those yet. We've seen what Skipp can do. Skipp's had a bad injury, maybe not back to what we expect, to what he was when he was on loan at Norwich, and what we saw at Burnley when he made his debut and things. But these kids are good, and this is a chance, for somebody like Sterling or somebody like Mason or Kane or something like that. Lads, this is it. This is your time, right? Tuesday night under the lights, biggest cup competition in the world, right? Get out there and show us. And exactly, Gibbo. And that's what I'll be saying. I'll be saying, like, come off there knowing that you've given absolutely everything. Don't go there and think, I might be playing at the weekend. Don't even think about the weekend. Just go out there, right, and give your all, and just lay it on, and go into the red zone and stay there for 90 minutes and see what you've got. And if you can come off and say, and sit around the dressing room and look at those players in the dressing room and say, I tried my best. And Sarr turned out, I tried my best. Got over them, but I tried my best. Then that's all you can expect from those guys. And I hope that's where it comes from. And they want 9 other players around them doing the same. And let's go. Give it a go. Just don't try and bore the opposition to death. Get out there and just give it a go, please.
Don't bore me to death, please. That's what I don't want anymore. I don't want to watch any more boring
games. Valentine's Day. It's Valentine's Day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Becky, is your man going to turn up tomorrow? Is Son going to turn up?
Well, we keep seeing glimmers of him, and Paul said that phrase. There were green shoots last week. He looked freer. He was, taking players on. He wasn't falling over his own feet. But that came from possibly having somebody higher up in midfield. And if Sarr and Skipp, don't maybe perform as well, I can just see us going deeper and deeper and deeper. And then Son just doesn't get the ball when it goes deeper and deeper, does he? I've read a lot the last couple of days. People saying about how we should play all 4 of them up front and just go for it, because our strength has always been attacking, not defending. Conte does play a defensive system. It's just really tricky because, like I said earlier, I just don't know how Skipp and Sarr will be. They've got the experience in the sense that they're at a big club and they've played in big, stadiums before. I'd just love to see us just kind of start well, and that's why Leicester was disappointing, because we did start reasonably well. We scored first, so you kind of hope we could do that, and then we'll see. Like I said, I don't expect it to be like that. I expect it to be fairly static, really, and they'll just try and not concede. And like I said, you can see us coming away with a 1-0 loss and kind of grabbing that and running away.
If I was Milan, I'd be putting 3 in midfield.
Going, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All day
well,
long.
To be fair, Seb, every other team that plays us have worked out what to do. They know what to do. A good coach will know what to do against Spurs, won't he? We've been figured out.
Just about to say there, I know Becky was saying that I spoke about the back end of last season. I don't think anybody knew much about us, and Seb said it, and I alluded to this on the podcast as well, is that I think Conte, and I fancy us when we're chasing. Seb, you said this on the pod, and I agree. And when we were chasing last season, and what Becky said earlier was like, I don't think people knew a lot about us. Kulu was still quite an unknown quantity. No one expected Bentancur to have the impact he did. Absolutely, if they did, they're lying. No way. That guy came in and transformed us. The reason we're playing on a Tuesday night, Bentancur, just like the song is. I think you're right, Gibber. I think certain coaches and certain scouts have worked us out. Let the wide centre backs have the ball. They're not going to hurt us. Okay, block off the pass lanes into the front 3, screen really, really well, and stay nice and compact, and don't leave any space in behind. There you go. You're going to beat Spurs.
Is it that simple, Seb?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
it is simple, isn't it?
Yeah, the evidence is there in the results. Bang average teams such as Aston Villa, Leicester, there's more. They're just the ones that come to me are picking us off. Let's not forget, against Preston for 45 minutes, we looked woeful. We're easy to match up against because of the formation that we play. We've come round in a complete circle now. As far as we're talking about the fact that we're easy to play against because we are rigid and stuck in our formation. We're stuck in the.
Preston was when I chose to put the bins out rather than watch that.
But we're playing with the formation. It's not even that we're stuck in the formation. We're stuck with the same passing channels. We know. I know. Pretty much what Son's going to do when he gets the ball. I pretty much know what Perisic is going to do when he gets the ball. We have a way of playing. We don't deviate from it. We've got very skillful players, so a lot of the time we get away with it, and a lot of the time we can do all right. But
I know,
if you've got half a brain.
I know a lot of people diss Brendan Rodgers, but he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, of course he does.
He knows what he's doing. He would have said, "Stop the ball coming into Kane." How'd they score at the weekend? Fez got there early, got a foot in it. Kane was, on his heels a little bit, and basically, got there. He knew the ball was coming into Kane. He knew they don't have a Maddison to come short and offer anything else. We've been worked out, I think, and
just that.
It's concerning.
I feel like we get worked out. Sorry to interrupt. I feel like we get worked out by managers who are. What's the word I'm looking for? Clever is not the right word. Yeah, who are willing to adapt their team to counter our team. When we actually do all right is against the Manchester Cities, where Guardiola is so pig-headed, he will play his way, no way. So we're able to kind of go, we know that's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Exactly it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If the team is willing to adapt to counter us, then we are so predictable that it works. The only time it doesn't, we have success is when the managers think that they can play their way. It's why we come up, we play all right against teams. Liverpool won't change the way that they play to play us.
No.
Leicester will, Aston Villa will, Milan will. So
Brighton.
that's your problem. Yeah, Brighton. Yeah, all of those.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So just a quick one then. If it carries on the same and Conte goes, Becky, Who would if he goes, who's your ideal replacement for Conte if it gets to that point?
Depends when it is. So if it's in the summer, then there's a bit of time to find somebody that isn't a bit knee-jerk. If it's...
Do you have an ideal replace? Do you have one in your head, though? Let's just say in an ideal world, you can get whoever you want, obviously without it being like Pep or Klopp or whatever. Do you have?
No, not really. But if it's on Wednesday, then I think it would be Poch, because he could come in short term, 6 months, knows the club, get going. Then get somebody else if he doesn't want to stay in the summer. It depends when it is.
I think if he gets it, he'd take the job for life. But Seb, what about you? What are you thinking? If the change has to be made, where do we go?
If it happens soon, then I guess Poch is. I think there's two options. I don't think Tuchel's an option, but I would say the two options are Poch or Stellini. If it is a case of it's not the management team, it's Antonio Conte that is done, then I have no problem with Stellini and Mason taking it over. If it's in the summer and we're looking for a longer term replacement, for me, I'd pay the money and get De Zerbi out of Brighton. I love what I've seen from him, and to be able to come in the way he's done after Potter, who has done very good things at Brighton, to kind of take that mantle up. Pretty much hit the ground running. I like the football that they play.
Would you take Potter if he gets a sack?
No. I stick to my guns here. 2 years ago or 18 months ago, whenever it was, when pre-Nuno, and then obviously when Conte comes in, there were certain people. Caller, I'm looking at you.
I was a Potter in, mate. I was Potter in.
Not for me. We'd be having very, very similar conversations that I think we're having now, but albeit in a different way. But for me, if you hit in XG levels and you can't put it in the back of the net, that's a coaching issue. I said it 2 years ago, and I think we'll see the same with Chelsea. I don't like the football. I don't like his methodology. I would not have him. No way.
Okay.
Isn't he on a 15-year contract anyway?
He must be. Is it Chelsea? He's got to be on over a 10-year contract. Paul, it all goes tits up. Who are you bringing in?
If we're at the Champions League and we're looking at West Ham, he'll be gone. If we lose against Chelsea, he's definitely gone. I would probably take, with the squad the way it is, if he goes before the end of the season, it will be Pochettino. Unfortunately, I don't want to go back to Mauricio Pochettino. I've got too much love for him. I don't want to see it go wrong.
That's where I am. I don't want.
I like the sporting guy. I like Emerson.
But if I'm sorry to interrupt, but if he wants that, I've read this so much. He wants to be there. That's and he's not. You'd like to think it's not the same person that left. So he's gained experience from going to PSG, from living a little bit more, and maybe he's grown as a coach. So it's not the same Poch you would think that it's gone back, even if some of the players are the same.
What do you think's changed at the club? What do you think's changed at the club, Becky?
I'd like to think a little bit of experience and a little bit of knowledge from hindsight. If it came, anything that came out of that thing that Levy said last week about how we made some signings that hadn't worked and some of the recruitment had been poor, I'd like to hope that they've got a little bit more of a kind of, a better understanding of how to operate a bit more. I'm not saying it's been perfect. It hasn't been, but Poch has the experience of having the hindsight and saying, well, you did this last time and we're going to try this time.
You'd like to hope that, wouldn't you? Because that's the hope.
Yeah. You wouldn't think he'd walk blind back into the same job. He'd walk back blind, would he, saying, you didn't sign anyone for a whole summer. I'm not going to do this. So you think he would come in with more sort of like, criteria or expectations, or have a bit more to kind of...
Do you think they'd have criteria and expectations of him, like don't make subs on 89 minutes?
Yeah. Oh, really?
It's two-way.
They're at the point where Levy will think it will appease people a bit, won't he, as well? So there is a little bit of that.
100%.
That's why I don't like the PR optics, to use a business phrase. of this Pochettino thing. I like the guy at Sporting. I think he's good. Watched a little bit of Sporting because of Mark Edwards, and I like him. I think he's done well there. I think he can coach at a high level. He could be our next Poch. He could be our next De Zerbi. I don't know. It will be a project manager. I don't think we can just keep hiring these win now managers and not backing them. I'm not getting into that now because that's just bores me to death like that. Right? But we can't go for another high profile kind of above the kind of like what you see at the cinema, like
Conte or Jose.
Yeah, you can't. I think we've got to go back. And again, and if Dave, if he's in the chat or anybody, it's going to be another 3 or 4. It's going to be another 3 or 4 year project. Which, if the football's decent, I don't mind paying. To come and see it. Or I don't. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Because we are paying the most expensive price in world football, and it's difficult to try and marry that with like what we've seen sometimes under Antonio Conte. So if he goes for the end of the season with the squad the way it is, because we can't buy anybody, it'll be Poch. If he goes in the summer, I'd like to see someone like Amorim coming in from Sporting and give
anybody having Thomas Frank. I'm just putting it out there. Does anybody fancy him?
I think he's Emperor's New Clothes is a bit too strong, but I think he's flavour of the month. I think PR wise, in terms of him, he comes across very well, and that attracts a lot of people. I would be surprised, and I don't want to put anyone down who's lauding him, if they're really analysing the football and whether he is a Tottenham manager. I don't know. I'm not as sold on him. Like I say, I think he's kind of flavour of the month. He's the new name, isn't he? You know, what are they? 8th in the league. You know, why is no one if he's the best thing now? Why is no one mentioning Marco Silva?
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
For me, he was rubbish at Watford. So he was awful.
Yeah, but right now he's great, and his team play fantastic football.
They're massively overachieving, aren't they? If you look at any of the metrics, they are massively overachieving.
So are Brentford.
There's lots and lots of names out there. You've got to hope that the club, because we obviously, another conversation, don't know what's happening with what's his name upstairs, Paratici. I'm sure he'll have a big say in it. And you've got to just hope that they're going to pick the right guy, and they're going to not back him as in when we're spending loads of money, but we need to do it the right way, don't we? Once this is played out, we need to do it the right thing.
Did Don Paratici go on a plane? Did he go on the plane today?
They didn't really show everybody. They only showed about 5 players. They had Conte first, and then Kane.
He's allowed back in the country.
Yeah, he went on in handcuffs, mate.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, guys. Well, we've been going for an hour and 42 minutes. So, Becky, thanks for coming back on. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been a bit of therapy for you.
Yeah, we've tried to be positive, haven't we? We've tried to kind of, see a way out of this. But I think it is a very important 2 weeks for Tottenham. More so maybe than for a while. But it's been great. Thanks for having me on. I'll be there next week after the West Ham game.
Seb, thanks for coming on, mate. I know you're usually a podder. Appreciate you coming on and giving your opinions. It's been good to have you on, mate. Thanks very much.
Always a pleasure, never a chore, mate. And I appreciate the platform. So thank you very much.
No problem, mate. And Paul, thanks for coming back on, mate. Thanks for rushing home from work to come on and get involved in this therapy session, mate. It's been good of you.
It's always good to get the heart rate up running through Brixton. So just don't do it so often, because then you get thrown to the ground by the local constabulary. No, it's been good. I've enjoyed it, and I think we're all mature enough to know that we're all quite passionate about what we say and where it's coming from. So I know sometimes I come across a little bit abrupt. I don't mean it that way, but it's been good to be on. Thanks very much for having me. It's been good.
Nah, mate, that's what it's all about. To be able to have difference of opinion, but actually just get on with it and just have a difference of opinion. Couple of shout outs. Want to shout out Craig for knocking up the run sheet, which I've mashed up. And John, always booking guests, done the socials tonight, done the slides, which I've not put on. Thanks for everyone in the chat. Because you're watching and you're putting comments in. You're the reason why we want to put out more content and better content. So thanks. And basically, last words. All I've got to say is, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.